Mark. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Mondoid, your one-stop shop for all things Project Zomboid. And this is my other cat. This is Oliver. Say hi, Oliver. He's being kind of whiny because suddenly he always gets in my lap, and then once I have him up here, he decides he doesn't want to be up here anymore, and now I'm forcing him to stay on my lap while I introduce him to the world. So say hello, Oliver. Yes. Mwah. Well, okay, bye. Anyway, welcome to Mondoid, your one-stop shop for all things Project Zomboid, and this week, big news, actually. It's big news for the most part. It's exciting news for those who follow Project Zomboid religiously, and the blog post is called ISO Revolution. I'm going to give you kind of a short rundown as to what this means and what this particular blog post means for us and you guys and whatnot, but I highly suggest going to the blog itself and clicking on the details link because they have on the forums this huge wall of text of what this particular update means and why it's exciting for the future. So I'm just not even going to scroll down and talk about it and go over everything. It's your general working on bugs, Romaine's working on stuff, and stuff's happening. That's the gist of the rest of it. But the important thing is to know that Project Zomboid, since its inception, has been working very, very 2D. If you remember its very first iterations, the character sprites, everything was a very 2D isometric situation. And many times over, the system would, or should I say not the system, but Project Zomboid would run with memory problems. It'd be using up a lot of memory. There's a lot of the game that it had to generally just process, and they've done so many different tricks throughout the past year or two of trying to knock down the memory usage of the system because they want to make sure that the game runs on lower end machines. And a lot of people are like, well, it's 2D, it's isometric, it should run really well anyway. I don't understand, it is a basic game. Memory problems no comprende, señor. Generally speaking, the idea behind people thinking that it's a 2D game, it's simple, it doesn't use a lot, is silly, because it does. It uses a ton. Just because something is basic in art style doesn't mean that it doesn't use a lot of memory, especially with something as big and ambitious as Zomboid, rendering tons of different buildings, tons of different zombies, etc., etc. And one of the first things they did to try and alleviate that is the introduction of 3D sprites. If you remember, we used to have 2D sprites, but they brought 3D sprites, and there was a kind of a big uproar about it. A lot of people liked it, a lot of people didn't, but the idea behind it, outside of making their life easy, was it allowed a little bit of some memory, allocation to be brought down. But a lot of it was to make their life easy going forward, which was good. But it was a 3D sprite in a 2D world, and the world was still being generated 2D worldwide. What? The world was still being generated in, in its 2D isometric sprite kind of 90-degree angle thing. All the walls were individually drawn and all that stuff. And it was, as time goes on and as things get added to the game and things get fixed with crawling zombies and more stuff being added and bigger parts of the map, and etc., the game starts becoming very difficult for lower-end systems to manage. Higher-end systems, like mine or pretty much anybody else's, can handle the game pretty easily. The frame rate's still kind of low. It's still kind of... Well, for me, it's really high up there, but when I record, it kind of drops low. And a lot of people are seeing frame rate drops generally. So they needed to figure out a way to fix this, especially when they're going on Steam in like a month, maybe two. They need to figure out a way of having the game run smoothly on other systems. And the way they did it, they decided, was something they were planning on doing all along, but they weren't sure if they're going to do it so soon, is to have a fully 3D world. That's right, no longer are they running or will be running on a drawn isometric 2D world. It will be 3D. Everything is going to be 3D. Now, that doesn't mean that we're going to be looking at a first-person game. They make that very, very, very clear. There will be no world rotation. There will be no first-person view. It is still going to be the isometric Zomboid we all know and love. But what this does mean is that there's going to be so much less memory being used by your computer. Drawing a single wall, as we see here, look at these two pictures. So this is just basically, the use of one wall kind of in different angles and being drawn out. Look how much space that takes up. And then below it is just textured polygons, which is 3D. There's such a space difference there that the memory being used by your computer to produce this is minimal. Now, I went to school for computer programming. I didn't go for a lot of 3D modeling. A lot of that stuff is still very much out of my field, but they do a pretty good job at explaining what this means. Again, with a lot less memory being used, it means, you know, as the iteration kind of comes forward, as each iteration is brought forth on Steam and to Desura and to the forums, you're going to see incremental improvements in frame rate and whatnot. The general goal right now for the Indie Stone is to have a frame rate improvement to the point for Steam where it's just going to be bearable even for lower end machines. But as things get fixed, you're looking at much easier production for the team, as well as huge memory things. Now, what does this mean outside of, oh good, my computer won't run it really slowly anymore? What does this mean for you? Why should you be excited for this? Because it means in the future, when the game is out on Steam and they're releasing expansions or patches or people are just modding, things are going to be a lot different. You're going to have terrain, for one. You're going to have the ability to raise and lower terrain in a 3D world, trenches, building. All this stuff is going to be very, very feasible. And one example they use in the big post in the forums is the idea of going into the wilderness, running up hills and down into valleys and generated caverns underneath, like natural caverns. All this stuff is now possible. Not only possible, but almost definitely going to happen, because it makes their lives that much easier. And that in itself is a very exciting prospect for us. They're going to be able to do that Sims 3 building style situation, snapping walls, I think they called it. All these things are going to be very possible for the future and future implementations of Project Zomboid. And for me, with Steam rapidly coming up, which I can't wait for it to come out on Steam, the bigger the audience they can get it to and run smoothly, the better. I suggest coming to the forum, reading everything and what it means, especially if you're more technically inclined with this type of thing than I am, because you'll get a better understanding of what it means, but generally speaking, it's just a good thing. So, check it out. That's it. That's the blog, right? Nice and simple, under 10 minutes. Well, I like to keep these Mondoids under 10 minutes of me blabbing at your face. So, thank you guys for swinging by. If you're one of those once-a-weekers, well, I'll see you next week. If you are a regular, I'll see you later today. I don't know why I'm stalling while I speak. And I'd say Oliver would say goodbye, but I don't know where he went. That's no problem. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hit that like button if you enjoyed it. Hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed it. And as always, I will see you all next time.